we want to take that network diagram and take it to the next level of detail, which is actually going to move us into having an actual schedule. So a little more complex. I'm just going to do this one problem in here. I'm going to explain how the transformation occurs, and I'll work through one sample problem so you can see how that works. Sorry, my slides aren't quite moving the way I wanted. We're going to start with a network diagram like we created during Module 9 at the beginning. But we're going to do two steps, and it's called a forward pass and a backwards pass. The forward pass, we're going to take that network diagram. We're going to work from the left side to the right side. That's going to take us through each of the paths in the network diagram and get us to the conclusion. And at that conclusion, we'll know the duration of our project. We'll know how long it's going to take to complete the project based on our plan. Then we're going to do what's called a backwards pass. We're going to move then from right to left, and that's going to actually create the schedule for each of the activities and what window of time they need to occur in. Now there's two rules as we work through this, and they're really the two major things. Actually, I'm going to make it three. The one is that you got to follow the arrows. You can't bounce around. You've got to just follow on the arrows. Then, where we need to really remember is these two. One is when merging, when we're doing our forwards pass, when two arrows come together into an activity, we're going to select the highest duration. I'll show you how that works. When we do our backwards pass, we're actually going to do the opposite of that, and that is we're going to select the lowest number. So when we're coming back across, those arrows will split as we're heading back, and we'll actually choose the lowest number then. And then we'll be able to work out a very accurate schedule. Now, I'll warn you as we go through this. I want you to work through one of these so you see what's occurring in what's a fairly simple network diagram. The beauty, again, of Microsoft Project is once you create your your Gantt chart, your durations, and the precedence relationships, and you enter those into your network, again, I said it wrong, into your Gantt chart, with a click of a button, it does all this in a flash. But I'd like you to see what it's going through so you can understand what's happening behind the scenes. So from this, again, the result is that we will actually have a schedule for our project. So I'm going to bring the network diagram up in just a second, but this little item up here in the corner is a little legend, and this varies by different texts and different software and so forth, but it needs to be provided at some point, and these character designations are going to be really important for us in interpreting this diagram. ES is early start. That's the soonest that this activity can occur. So each of these boxes represents a node, as we just had in our network diagram. The ID is just the identifier of the activity. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or numbers. Early finish is the soonest that this activity will be complete. SL is slack time. Slack time is the flexibility that this activity has, that it could move a little late, not hurt anything in the schedule. LS is late start. What's the latest that we must start this activity in order to get the project done on time? Late finish, what's the latest that it can be done? Duration is how long should it take, hours, weeks, days, months, whatever that duration is. So I'm going to bring up the network diagram here, and we already have the nodes in place and the arrows in place, and we're just going to work forwards to back. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is go down to our precedence information down here, and I'm going to extract this information and take these durations and enter them into the duration box for each activity. So we have those in place. There's A is 2 weeks, B is 15, C is 10. I'm just going to go through and put all these in. I believe I have all those entered correctly. That's the first step. Second step is to do our forwards pass. The earliest activity A can begin is day 0 or week 0. So that's the start of the project. That's the launch point. We'll actually begin working. And we use this process where we essentially draw an arrow where we take the 0, which is the start, add the 2 duration, and we end up with 2. So 0 plus 2 gives us our 2. Now we're moving forward, so we're going to bring that 2 into each box and do the V over again. You don't have to draw the V's. I just wanted you to see where they were coming from. 2 plus 15 is 17. Bring the 2 over, that's 12. Bring the 2 over, that is 15. Bring the 2 over, that's 20. Now we keep moving across to the right, and we take our 17, move it over to G. 17 plus 10, ooh, see I've already made a mistake on this. Let me hold off on that because I realize we've got a merge here, so I'm going to hold him a second. Let's work through a little bit further down first. We've got our 12 here and our 15 here. When moving forward, we always take the higher, so the 15 is going to come across. 15 plus 15 is 30, and in this case, the 20, we can't move the 20 yet because, again, there's another merge coming up. So now we can complete the G, where we have a 17 here and a 30 here, and the rule is take the higher number when doing a forward pass. 30 plus 10 is 40. Now we can solve this one, and that is we've got a 40 up here. We have a 20 down here. The higher number is going to be 40. I'll bring that in. 40 plus the 5 gives us 45. So we've completed our forwards pass, and at this point, this project is going to take 45 weeks to complete. Let me clean up a few things so we can see a little more clearly. Our backwards pass, I'm going to switch to red. Let me put my 0 back in there. There we go. I'm going to switch to red to do the backwards pass. There we go. Get that out of the way. There we go. Okay, backwards pass, we're going to move this direction. So we're going to take our 45, we're going to move it down here. 45, subtract off the 5, that gives us 40. We're going to keep moving backwards, so that 40 will come up. That 40 will also go back down here. 40 minus 18, 22. And 40 up here minus 10, 30. Now we can take the 30 back. 30 minus 15, 15. And take our 30 down here. 30 minus 15, 15 again. Move this 15 back and up here. 15 minus 10 is 5. 15 minus 13 is 2. Looks like everything's moving back nicely. Now we've got a little bit of a problem here because we've got a burst activity, and so we're going to take the lowest number, which looks like it's 2. We could have chosen from 15, 5, 2, and 22. 2 is the lowest, so we're going to bring that back. 2 minus 2 is 0. Now we're going to do, I'm going to get rid of all my crazy arrows here so we can talk about what in the world we just created. There we go. One final calculation, and that is the slack is still out there waiting to be answered right there. And slack is the difference between these two numbers. 0 in this case, 0 in this case, 0 in this case. Ooh, 13 here, 3 here, 0 here, and 20 here, and 0 here. So now we have all of our slack calculated. Get rid of some of my extra marks. This gives us, actually, believe it or not, is the schedule of how we can now run our project. Here's how this is going to work. Let's interpret some of these. Let's just look at one activity. Let's look at activity G. And the person who's responsible, let's say Joe is on for G, and Joe knows that his work is going to take 10 weeks. The earliest he's going to start is week 30 of the project. So as soon as we find out what the project start date is, we can add 30 weeks to that. That's the earliest he's going to need to be ready to go on this. The earliest finish is going to be 40 because he starts in 30, works for 10 weeks. He needs to be done by 40. Unfortunately, Joe's in a really tough spot because the latest he can start is also 30 and the latest he can finish is 40, which means he has no slack time. Joe is on the critical path. The definition of the critical path is slack equals 0. So we have this activity's on the critical path, this activity's on the critical path, this activity's on the critical path, and this activity and this activity. So these people, if any of them, let's say Mike has activity D, if he doesn't get it done in his 13 weeks and he finishes in week 16 instead of 15, the whole project's going to be late and it's going to be finished in week 46. Not good. So we want to know where that critical path is, but we also want to be able to communicate to each of the people on the project when their activity window will occur. If this person has slack, which they do, they have 3 weeks of slack, then they've got some flexibility on when they start and still finish on time. So they can finish anywhere between the 12th and the 15th week and still be on time. So that's where the schedule is going to go. These dates actually appear in the Gantt chart in Microsoft Project. So that is the solving of a network diagram in order to create a schedule. Give that a try.